WFIU, Bloomington, Indiana, where you don't need to be an expert if you learn something new every day.
Ernie thought, from time to time, about how a bad son would leave his parents to fend for themselves in their old age. And from time to time, he'd hear things about his folks that made him stop dead in his tracks with worry. How close were they actually getting to not being able to take care of themselves? What was expected of him when they couldn't? Who could he count on to help with such matters when that dreaded moment occurs? He knew he wouldn't get the straight story about anything by asking his mom or dad for the truth on such matters. They'd just fight back anyway. And they were pacifists.
Hello, I'm Ernie Pyle, the Hoosier Vagabond, and this is that girl who rides with me.
Apparently, I am indispensable to this operation.
Welcome to the Ernie Pyle Experiment, Episode 5. Perhaps you've heard of my father. Let's catch up with Ernie and Bobby Webster out behind the barn, sampling the pie man's wares.
Bobby, you have outdone yourself. If your granddad were still alive, I don't know if he'd be proud of you or chase you out of town for stealing all these cherries.
Thanks, Ernie.
I better take a few of these jars off your hands. It's a fine sipper's beverage, I tell you. Bobby Webster's cherry pie.
$1 a pop.
$1 pop, I can do that.
Ernie, I wanted to mention something before I go. I was talking to Camp Miller, and he told me about his storefront window getting busted out.
Yeah?
It seems someone drove through it.
Yeah?
Have you seen the front end of your dad's car?
Why?
It was your father's doing.
Is that a fact?
And so, people are talking.
About what?
I grew up with your dad around. He's like family. I worry about him.
Why?
Is he going senile?
I don't know. I don't think so. We're all getting old, Bobby.
Sure, I get you, but you aren't around, Ernie. You can't possibly notice these things. Do you have anyone to look after your folks when you're on the road?
It's early. Sun just come up. That girl is sleeping here in my bed. Best time of day to write. I just wanted to get some thoughts out here. I have some harebrained ideas going on right now. I figure if I write them down, I guess they can be used against me as proof I'm a lunatic. So, Jim, you're getting it.
What are you doing?
What? Shh, shh. I'm talking to your boyfriend here.
Stop clanging around.
Shh.
Sleeping.
Shh. Go back to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
So here goes. I was walking around outside thinking about work, thinking about my folks, thinking about what Bobby said about my dad crashing the car. Mm-hmm. And my mind falls into a different pattern sometimes. When it happens, I try to take notice. The colors will get brighter, sounds get specific, and if someone's talking during this, I won't even hear what they're saying. I have to remind myself to stay awake of what is happening, because what is happening, I think, is the writer in me is preparing. There's something deep inside of me noticing a thing that'll come up in a story later. It just happens. I'm not actually sure if I'm making it happen because I'm always looking for something to write about, or it's always been there, and it just may be the thing that makes me want to write every moment down. I don't. Boy, I'm not making any sense to myself. In any case, when it happens, my mind slips into this place, and I could cry for no reason at all, or laugh like a crazy man out in the field somewhere all by myself. Sometimes I think I'm just wanting to describe that moment, the miracle of it, or the mystery of it, and what is happening to me, what I'm really experiencing. I can't. People would think I'm a loon. Hell, I think I'm a loon anyway. When I try it, it always comes out as just a basic story about a thing or a person anyway, so I wasn't crying, really. It wasn't a real cry. I don't Don't think I was crying because I was sad or some such nonsense. Just something inside me alerting me to notice something outside of me. Yeah. See now? Damn it, I sound like a loon.
Did you just have one of those moments? No use. Question it. Get in a chair. Right.
Yeah, I am. Here, sit up.
Ernie, I want to sleep more.
Narrow my focus.
What?
So I wrote one about the wind, then one about the snake and the roses, then one about Mom, right?
It's a series.
A series?
It's easy. It's a series.
Yes, that's it. Perfect. That's perfect. Thank you. Go back to sleep now.
That's what you say.
I'm sorry.
What's next?
I guess Dad. But now that I know him, I'm dead in the water again.
Oh, you just need to put your fanny in the chair. Right.
Yeah. Well, give me something. How do I get in?
What'd you talk about with him last?
Nothing. We were standing at his car, looking at the dent in his fender. I reached out, touched it, looked at him, and he walked away.
So, what?
Yesterday, Bobby Webster told me he crashed into the dry goods store.
What'd that say?
Nothing. I told you he walked away. Now I'm juggling all these horse apples in my head and I have to write. Happens every time we come here.
Why do we come here?
Oh, don't start that way.
Sure, I don't know anything about it,
Geraldine.
do I? Okay, I know. Well, do you think he's getting too old to drive?
Well, was he too old to drive back in 14 when he drove the car through the wagon shed and into the gravel pit out back?
Oh, he didn't know.
He did.
What'd he say then?
He didn't. He just left it there, came in the house like he meant to do it. In the morning, the car was back in the shed, the wall fixed, painted like it never happened.
Curious.
Oh, you bet. What isn't curious is that he can fix anything. He has a tool for everything.
Except one to fix his fender.
Yeah. Only for lack of trying, I bet. He's like that. One time when he ran for township trustee, his heart wasn't in that either. Well, I asked him about why he ran. He just got up and walked out of the room, same as with the dent in his fender.
Curious.
How the hell's a guy supposed to get to the bottom of anything around here anyway? So, Mom, I got a question for you. Why do you think Dad lost for township trustee?
Well, nobody wanted to lose him as a handyman.
Does he like fixing everything for everybody?
No.
Uh-huh.
But there's never a shortage of things breaking or walls needing paint and paper.
Yeah.
Now, have you ever tried to wallpaper?
No, can't say that I have.
Oh, Lord, what a mess. Will can do it in his sleep, match up patterns, score around moldings and whatnot like it's magic.
Yeah.
And he's perfect every time.
Well, I bet.
I don't know how he does it, and he's fast. You know folks pay a good penny for that.
Well, I suppose he can make himself indispensable if he wants.
And he is never in the same place over and over and over each day. He doesn't like that.
Well, I don't either.
No. But I think going out to that barn every day and keeping a farm up, it makes him anxious. Because there's thousands of little things to do every day on a farm that have to get done. Well, they never get done because all the other monotonous everyday chores just stand in the way. Ain't that the truth? And the projects, like making a chair or something that he really wants to be doing,
Sure.
well, they never happen. Never, no. But I think being able to use the tools that make a chair every day, even though he's using them for something else, and not that chair, is close enough for him. So that's what he does for everybody else.
Well, at least there's money in it.
Oh, that's what I tell the flies that keep coming in through that hole in the screen. What? That's only funny 'cause it's true. A cobbler without shoes, I'll tell you.
I always pictured him as a man that got it all done. He's up before dawn, back after sunset.
He is. He is. That doesn't mean it all gets done, though.
Yeah, I feel the same way being on the road.
You and your father. You're more alike than you know. I've never had to worry that either of you would have to rely on anybody else for your supper.
Is that right?
Yeah. Now, a person that falls into that trap and learns to forgive themselves of it, well, I don't want to be around them. When you want something, you do what you have to do without relying on anybody. Your dad and I, when we were courting, he took a job clear on the other side of the Wabash.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And he could have slept there. But he came back here twice a week.
Uh-huh.
That was almost 20 miles each way, by horse and bicycle.
Yeah, that is some dedication. I guess we are alike.
Well, don't be patting yourself too hard on the back. You aren't alike in everything. You talk a lot more than he does.
Is that good or bad?
Well, I don't know. But I do know you're both bumbling fools to boot. Remember when you flipped that Ford Roadster into the ditch?
Maybe.
Well, then maybe you'll remember when he drove the car through the back end of the wagon shed.
Maybe. Bumbling fools it is. Speaking of bad drivers, what do you think made Dad drive through that window in town?
He told you?
Well, I saw his fender. He told me just that he did it, no detail.
Well, then you know more than I do. Why don't you go down and ask Kent Miller at the dry goods? I'm interested in that answer myself.
I was sitting right here with a sandwich in my mouth, taking lunch. Your father turned in the road. I watched the whole thing happen from right here.
Really? Yeah, okay.
Your father turned in the road, kept right on turning, hopped the curb and right through the window.
I don't understand that.
Took out my key and cut a glass case.
Oh, well, I'm sorry about that, sir.
Which didn't hurt the axe heads or scissors or these cute little fingernail trimmers. Ain't they cute?
Well, I'll be they sure are, Mr. Miller.
They're the latest, old boy. Keen cutter, better get you some keen cutter.
Well, what do you think happened? Did he swerve to miss something in the road? Did you see anything like that?
Who knows? His eyes just went wide and he grabbed that steering wheel for all it's worth. The look on his face, and I saw the whole thing from right here. It was as if it was all happening very slow-like. The look on his face was like he was blaming somebody for something. Like, you know, when he doesn't believe someone, when they're fibbing to him.
You think I know that face?
Yeah, I think you know it.
Yeah. This one, is it the one with the lips clamped down like he's tightening a fishing line on a hook?
You do know it.
I suppose. Now I wonder who's doing the fibbing.
Good question. Well, that's all I remember of it. Then he came right on through.
Doesn't make any sense.
No. Then he backed out, put it in park, took his toolbox out of the back seat, and without saying a word, started working. Like he woke up that morning intending to come work here the whole time.
Now that makes sense, making more work for himself than needs be. Dad, will you just answer me?
Why is that so important to you?
I don't know. But the more you resist, the more interested I get.
You think I'm getting senile?
No, I don't. But I do think...
But where I come from, when a guy says but, it changes everything he said before it.
I come from the same place. But I gotta tell you.
But.
Okay, are you going senile?
I knew it.
I'm not hearing Dana. I still think I ought to be looking after you, though. I've asked you, I've asked Mom. I've also been to talk to Kent Miller at the dry goods. There's a hole in the story I can't get filled, so sue me if I have to entertain certain thoughts about the matter.
Do you really think I'm losing my mind?
No. What?
Son.
It's happened to plenty of folks a lot younger than you.
It's not happening to me, so stop looking for it.
Why didn't you stop the car then? Why did you plow through the dry goods?
You don't think I had a good reason?
What do you have against Kent Miller?
Besides charging too much for a keg of nails?
Besides that, yeah.
I don't have anything against anybody. I also don't think I owe you an explanation.
Well, what about Mom?
She's not asking. Ernie, I live my life not owing anybody an explanation that doesn't deserve one. You should too. It's good policy. For instance, I don't like to travel. Your mother doesn't like it neither. But we took a couple trips because some folks thought we should. They'd say, "What's wrong with you? Why don't you go on a vacation?" I'd say nothing. I don't owe them an explanation about it. They kept on about it until your mother and I decided to take your advice, and we did. So we went to see you in Washington.
Well, I didn't know you didn't want to come.
Well, I didn't. And if you did know, how do you think you would have felt about it?
Yeah, I understand. I'd have been sad about it, I suppose.
You think I like making you feel sad?
Well, you don't, so no.
That's right, I don't. I also don't tell everyone here at home the story of the Smithsonian Institute giving me a headache.
That was funny. You kept bumping your head.
Funny to you. The glass on those exhibits was so clean, I swear I wasn't the only one hitting my forehead on them. And nobody here needs to hear that story, though.
Yeah.
I don't need to spread my own gossip about myself being a jackass.
I get it.
Do you?
So what made you a jackass for driving through the window?
If I told you, you'd probably put it in a story in a newspaper.
Oh, I wouldn't do that.
The heck you wouldn't.
Dad, I would never do that. Here, listen to this.
Go ahead.
Perhaps you've heard of my father. He's the man who put oil on his brakes when they got to squeaking, then drove to Dana and ran over the curb and through a plate glass window and right into a dry goods store. My father is also the man who ran with Roosevelt in 1932. He ran for township trustee, was the only Democrat in the county who lost, and was probably the happiest man who listened to election returns that night. He couldn't think of anything worse than being township trustee. The reason he lost was that all the people figured that if he was trustee, he wouldn't have time to put roofs on their houses and paint their barns and paper the dining rooms, fix their chimneys, do 1,001 other things for him. I guess when my father's gone, that whole neighborhood will just sort of fall down. He used to work as a hired hand way over on the other side of the Wabash River. When he was courting my mother, every Sunday he would drive a horse 6 miles to the river, row a boat across, and then ride a bicycle 10 miles to my mother's house. At midnight, he started to reverse the process. My mother figured he either loved her or else was foolish and needed somebody to look after him, so she married him. My father's never lived anywhere except on a farm, yet I don't think he ever did like the farm very well. He's been happiest, I think, since he started renting out the farm, ever since he's been carpentering and handyman and all about the neighborhood. He is a wizard with tools where other people are clumsy. He is a carpenter at heart. Once when he was a young man, my father did start out to see the world. He went to Iowa to cut broom corn, but broke a leg and had to come home. He never went anywhere again until he was 55, when he went to California to see his brother. He sat up all the way in a day coach. Later, he went to New York, so he has seen both oceans. He's a very quiet man. He has never said a great deal to me all his life, and yet I feel we have been very good friends. He never gave me much advice or told me to do this or that or not to. He bought me a Ford Roadster when I was about 16, and when I wrecked it a couple weeks later, he never said a word. But he didn't spare me either. I worked like a horse from the time I was 9. My father's now getting a little deaf. My mother says he can always hear what he isn't supposed to hear. If my father doesn't like people, he never says anything about it. If he does like people, he never says much about that either. He doesn't swear or drink or smoke. He is honest in letter and in spirit. He's a good man without being at all annoying about it. He's very even-tempered. If he has an enemy in this whole country, I have yet to hear about it.
I thought he went to see your mother twice a week. And wasn't it 20 miles each way?
Well, I don't want to make him feel like a fool.
Well, it's not half bad then.
All right. Well, you're just saying that 'cause it's true.
I'm saying it because I'm being nice.
You don't believe it then?
I could look it over and make it true for
Oh,
you.
boy, here we go.
Next time on the Ernie Pyle Experiment.
My Aunt Mary was born 30 years too soon. Always did want to be in politics and national affairs, and she does plenty of first-rate original thinking, too.
If I had it to do all over, I'd still wait till I was 40 to get married, because first I'd go to college and then run for Senate.
Aunt Mary was past 40 when she married. Uncle George lived on a farm, but he wasn't a farmer. He was a dreamer.
I made him see reason more than once, I tell you.
Then Uncle George died, so at 60, she went to Indianapolis all alone to make her way in the world.
I think it's as plain as the nose on your face.
What?
There's a story in there.
And there she is, at 70, still hammering away at life and getting the best of it.
Back next time with more stories from the Ernie Pyle Experiment. I'm Dan V. Prescott, reminding you that the good road will never end, if you can only stay on it.
The Ernie Pyle Experiment is produced at WFIU on the campus of Indiana University. For complete credits of cast and crew for each episode and to find past episodes, visit WFIU.org/Ernie Pyle Podcast. Also, find the Ernie Pyle Experiment wherever you access your media.
WFIU, Bloomington, Indiana. I'm Carrie O'Nanan. Say it with me, O'Nanan. Rhymes with Montanan, James Buchanan, oxyhemocyanin, bananan. WFIU, Bloomington, Indiana, where you don't need to be an expert if you learn something new every day.
Jerry had begun to fall back into herself. Something was lurking that wanted out. And like how the horses can sense a coming storm, Ernie knew it was lining up on the horizon. But that didn't mean he knew what to do. Besides, maybe it couldn't be helped. Maybe what this coming storm required Ernie to do was hunker in place, wait it out. In any case, it wasn't quite here yet. Why bring it up when the sun is still out?
This is Ernie Pyle, the Hoosier Vagabond, and this is that girl who rides with me.
Not lately. When are we getting the heck out of here?
Welcome to the Ernie Pyle Experiment, Episode 6. 30 years too soon.
Howdy, Jack. Big surprise. We're still in Dana. I just put my suitcase in the car. I thought I'd give me a little piece of my mind. Ernie's getting his junk packed. I don't have much to pack, just a couple of bottles of what now, and don't you know? And if you don't know, I won't tell you. And this tin cup, hard to find sometimes because it rolls under the seat. Meh. What do you judge? Everybody has an opinion, Jimmy boy. I don't care who knows. I like to drink. I like to drink. Someone's on the porch. Darn it. Ooh, it's Mary. I think she heard me. Cat's under the bag. Oh, that cat's not been in the bag ever. Oh, here's to you, Aunt Mary. Cheers! She's a lone wolf, Jim. I like her. She takes no guff. She's
why we get along.
Hey!
Oh,
Well, don't put that away.
you can't sneak up on a person
Well,
like that.
I wasn't. If your ears weren't ringing, you'd have heard me.
Careful, keep it down. Aunt Mary's on the porch. Don't wave at her.
Why not? Try acting normal. I do it all the
Oh,
time.
she'll think I'm up to something.
Well, aren't you?
When do you want to get out of here?
Well, soon.
I'm ready.
I know you are. I saw you packing.
Really, Ernie, can you set a time?
No.
Would you like to get to Yellow Springs by sundown?
Oh, Yellow Springs is it, huh? The old Trail Tavern?
Well, why not? A drink and a room.
It'll be there tomorrow.
You finish your last column.
Well, I'm working on it. It's on Aunt Mary.
You aren't even done yet, Ernie. Please. How far along? I just want to get out of here. I'm going to get out. I am so tired. I'm too tired all the time. And I want to open one of these inhalers, but I don't want to do it here.
No, Benzedrine, you better not.
Oh,
You can
I
wait.
will. I'm going to open 4 or 5 of them at
No.
once if you don't hurry.
Nobody wants to see you hopped up on Benzedrine, Jerry. Put them
I'm
away.
so damn tired. I don't... how far along are you in the story?
Far. I'm too near to be far. The page is blank.
Oh.
Look. I got an idea. Why don't you take this machine up to the porch, do a little reconnoiter?
What?
You set it on the ground, put a quilt over top of it, hide the microphone, get Aunt Mary to come sit out. See? Try it. See if you can get me something I couldn't get for myself.
Oh, yeah, like the sense to know when we should leave.
If you can get me enough to write about, I will get you to Yellow Springs by sundown. How's that sound?
Uh-huh. Mary,
Yes, dear?
come join me on the porch. Mary, how old were you when George died?
Well, it's been 10 years. 60.
How long were you married?
20 years.
Was it enough?
I suppose not.
Was he good to you?
Say, what is this? Why are your eyes darting back and forth?
What? No, they're not. I'm just curious is all.
Are you sure? What's this inquisition about? You all right?
Yes.
Let me look at you. Maybe you should sit down. You really want to know about George?
I really do.
Well, okay. Nothing much to the story, anyway, kind of like George. Are you sure you're feeling all right?
Yes.
All right. Well, if I had it to do all over, I'd still wait till I was 40 to get married, because first I'd go to college and then run for Senate. I'd bring the voice of reason to Washington, raise heck a few years, then I'd be ready for George Bales. I made him see reason more than once, I tell you.
I'd vote for you.
Instead, I took on George Bales on the reform ticket, when I should have been taking on Roosevelt, the first one. George had come calling with a broken-down mare front and a racing sulky and expect me to like it. He thought that was special. Just like a man to think stability is approached in half measures. George would stop on the road and yell for me to come out. He hadn't the sense to get off and come escort me down. Someone had to help the poor sap with things such as manners and sense. I felt sorry for him, so I married him.
But you liked him?
Well, sure.
We made it an awful long time without marrying. Weren't any others?
Any other what?
Any other boys?
Why do I feel like I'm on trial here? What do you
They
mean?
came calling before George.
Well, sure.
What were they like?
One was a giant. He was twice as tall as me and ate like an elephant. He was a nice boy, but the thought of cooking for him? Oh, all that food? I'd never have the time for anything else. He was so big. He didn't move much.
So, it's a practical decision.
It was a tactical decision. A daily routine can't be a source of suffering.
Sure. Ernie doesn't eat much. I'm glad he doesn't care much for my cooking.
Well, maybe the two are related. Oh, I'm just teasing.
I hope so. I get the feeling everybody thinks I don't do anything.
Well, you aren't a conventional type of woman, are you?
Hope not.
Does Ernie think you don't do anything?
No. It's the only man never went out of his way to talk down to me. I mean, he does, but so do I about him, but not in a general sense. Just stupid.
Nobody around here thinks that. All we see is how much that boy loves you and needs you.
It's okay, I guess. Still, I feel like a half human sometimes.
Maybe we should do this another time, dear. You seem a bit tired at the moment. You sure you don't just want to take a nap?
No.
I think you need to drink some milk, dear.
He talks to himself when he's composing.
What? What are you talking about now, dear?
He just moves his lips. No sound comes out. Anywhere in the car, in the corner. Just bob his head, gesture with his hands like talking to a ghost or something.
Where are you right now, young lady?
Yeah. Last week we were in a nice hotel and he was typing and I went out to get something.
Maria, will you bring Geraldine a glass of milk, please?
Door was wide open. For some reason, I heard him talking to somebody. I walk in, he's just shaving, just talking to himself in the mirror, saying the same sentence over and over and over. I just stood in the doorway listening. I knew exactly what would make that sentence perfect. Just a simple change in verb tense. I was about to speak, and he caught me off the corner of his eye, and it startled him, and he just nicked his upper lip. He just laughed. He just laughed and laughed. He thought it was the funniest thing ever happened.
He is a good man.
I'll keep him.
Well, I'm glad to hear it. What is it now, dear?
What else would I do?
What do you want to do?
I want to get rid of this feeling.
What feeling? What are you talking about?
That I'm worthless. I can't even look at myself in the mirror.
Well, I feel like that. I sure do. All the
like
time. You just got to stay
book
busy.
He just pulls off the shelf that's there when he needs me. I don't have even one thing for myself.
Well, most folks these days don't. Sometimes the world turns sideways, and it's all you can do to keep from selling apples on a street corner. You have them beat by a mile, dear.
Words.
Oh, sure, you can say that.
At this point, I usually pack up my stuff and throw it in the car and we go. Leave this feeling on the side of the road.
Or kick it down the road.
Am I getting you down?
Oh, it's okay, young lady.
Here you go.
Thank you, Maria.
Is she feeling all right?
Well, that depends. I don't know what she's gotten into.
Well, see if you can get her to fall asleep.
I'm trying. Jerry, sit up. Drink this. Here. Let's just sit here. Be calm a few moments. Maybe that's the trick. Maybe settle down a bit. There we go. How long have you been at this driving around now? 2 years?
Not quite, no.
All that driving. You like it?
Well, I love it.
You wouldn't rather...
No.
Well, now there has to be something about it that you don't like.
Sometimes I don't get a vote in things. That's something, like after we decide to go someplace and I fall asleep and we end up in another. That kind of thing.
If you drove, you could have him fall asleep. And then you can be the one to end up someplace else.
Well, that would be good. I drive every now and then. I'm just used to not. I like being able to just look at the horizon without worrying. That's my favorite thing. Just find something far away. Just watch it. I like the forests and mountains, but the plains. I just need a vantage point on the plain and I can see something like a farmhouse and a barn and I just watch it. And I think, who lives there? Do they like their life? Do they do things? Are they happy? Do they have kids? Do they see me looking at them at the same time? But then I think about all the chores I have to do. I don't have to do those chores and I feel good. I feel real good.
Oh, you.
Last week, I stared for 20 minutes. 20 full minutes, at least. These little tornadoes that just swirl and swirl and swirl, and they never touch down. And we went the whole way on the ribbon of the road. I never, ever lost sight of those tornadoes. It was, I can't think of anything. It was beautiful. It was beautiful. No, there's not a word for what I was doing.
What were you doing?
Nothing. Just looking. Like when I was little. I used to run around the Annika State Asylum, Minnesota. My dad was superintendent there, and I made friends with all the crazy people. There was all the rage back then, and I would just sit with this one lady, Martha. She was so nice to me. We never even talked. We'd just sit in this large window and just look out at the river. I felt so calm. Funny thinking about that right now.
I think it's as plain as the nose on your face.
What?
There's a story in there somewhere. If you can conjure up moments like that and explain it like that, honey, why aren't you writing yourself?
I might stop being useful to Ernie.
Oh, he'll get on just fine. We all do. Now look at me. I did just fine after George died.
Would you miss him?
Well, sure. Every day. But I got my own way to make now, you know.
Why didn't you ever have kids?
Why haven't you? Geraldine? Jerry? Are you awake? Oh. I don't know when you'll hear this, Ernest. I'm sure I won't have time to tell you face to face. I'm sure you'll be hightailing it from Dana now as soon as you can, so nobody has time to ask direct questions. So let me say this here then. Your lives need to change. I see nothing but grave circumstances ahead if you don't. Now, I got to tell you we love her. We do because you brought her here to us to love. So we do. But you were never like this. You weren't brought up like this. Oh, if she does herself in, and you didn't do all you could to help her, you know you will never forgive yourself. That's an Ernest I know. Forever racked with guilt, self-doubt. Oh, I can't imagine what that'd do to you. So I don't know when I'll see you next. But when that time comes, don't let her do this here again.
So Ernie listened to that last stretch of wire and got to work, for that storm was on their heels now and wouldn't be long.
Listen to this.
Go ahead.
My Aunt Mary was born 30 years too soon. If she was 40 instead of 70, I'm sure she would be in Congress now. She always did want to be in politics and national affairs, and she does plenty of first-rate original thinking, too. Yet she never went beyond the 8th grade in high school. Aunt Mary was past 40 when she married. Uncle George lived on a farm. But he wasn't a farmer, he was a dreamer. He would fuss all day around his garden and his flowers and play his beautiful big black square piano and order 3 carloads of lime and fertilizer he couldn't pay for and talk by the hour about his prized sweet corn and spent whole half days studying the flower and seed catalogs he had sent away for it. My Uncle George was a great man, and he worked like a Trojan. But he never got anything done, and Aunt Mary had to make the living. She did a nice job of it, too. She raised hundreds of chickens, and she raised her own hogs and cows. And through 20 years, she kept the treasury from going flat. She worked from 4 in the morning till 9 at night, found time to go to a couple of weekly clubs and run the country church besides. She even bought an automobile as early as 1915 and learned to drive it, and drive it well, too, when she was 50 years old. Uncle George never would drive the damn thing, so she had to haul him around, too. Then Uncle George died. Aunt Mary was 60 years old. She had been born on a farm, raised on a farm, had never been off the farm. But she was alert, and she had more energy than a buzzsaw, and she was tall and straight despite a lifetime of killing work. And she was generous and kind. So, at 60, she went to Indianapolis all alone to make her way in the world. And she did make it. She worked at all kinds of jobs. She worked as a supervisor in a girls' reform school. She worked in a restaurant. She took care of a sick woman. She worked as a housekeeper. And today at 70, she is still working. Not only making her own way, as we say a boy is just out of college, but helping keep a lot of other people just as she always has. In the city, Aunt Mary has time, an opportunity to keep up with what is going on in the world, even better than she did before. She knows all about the New Deal and is in favor of it. Most farm people and churchmen are fundamentalists, but my Aunt Mary would have to take only a couple of jumps to be a full-fledged socialist. She has pretty advanced social ideas. And if she was 40 instead of 70, I'll bet she'd make the capitalists holler. She still has all her old energy. When she writes letters, her mind runs so far ahead of her pen that she leaves out half the words. But her main interests still lay in the little community where she lived for 60 years. Every letter to her has to tell how Minnie's chickens are doing, who wasn't at church last Sunday, and when Edith is going to have her baby, and what Grace's new dress looks like. She gets back often enough, and people say to her what a shame she has to go back so soon, and she says philosophically, but spirited-like, "Yes, I'd sure love to stay, but I've got my own way to make, you know." And there she is, at 70, still hammering away at life and getting the best of it. She makes a lot of us younger ones look cheap.
That's a good one.
You ready?
Car's packed. I'm packed. Still early enough to make Yellow Springs.
Maybe. Let's go say goodbye to everybody.
You better hurry. I just swallowed a Benny. Goodbye, everybody!
Next week on the Ernie Pyle Experiment.
It is a matter of vexation to me that I must spend my life reading stories, and yet I can never find a word in the papers about the feats performed in that noblest of all card games, solitaire. It is not a fair hand of solitaire you're dealing me, Walter.
I play bridge.
Oh, I hate that game. I have never played a game of bridge in my life and never intend to.
Why do you hate bridge?
Culbertson and Lenz, why are there two bridge experts giving out strategy in every paper? It doesn't make sense to me. If you play bridge, you have to play with somebody. Well, that cancels it for me.
Bridge players are among the smartest folks I know.
It doesn't make any sense. I gut Culbertson and Lenz and sell more advertising.
Give me a space. I'll write something.
Back next time with more adventures from the Ernie Pyle Experiment. And verily, I say unto you, until the cows come home, the good road will never end, if you can only stay on it.
The Ernie Pyle Experiment is produced at WFIU on the campus of Indiana University. For complete credits of cast and crew for each episode and to find past episodes, visit WFIU.org/Ernie Pyle Podcast. Also, find the Ernie Pyle Experiment wherever you access your media.
WFIU, Bloomington, Indiana, where apparently we've devolved into an entire population of beleaguering, self-styled humorists. You know who I am by now. I'm comfortable with my name. I know who I am. I'm Carrie O'Nanan. I've been in public radio since I got into this business. Well, my name itself is a veritable institution, a boilerplate that soothes, and a tradition of the vocal form to all who can hear it. Let's put a stop to these childish antics, Bloomington. My name is Carrie O'Nanan. You know it, I know it, and your mom knows it. And for my sake, it's getting to where I can't go anywhere anymore. I have to drive straight from the studio to home. My wife, is not happy. I've just been told that someone has hijacked my stool at Nick's English Hut.